Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. For this tutorial, I'm going to go over inheritance in C++. Inheritance is a part of object-oriented programming, and it's a very easy concept to understand. Inheritance allows you to create a new class from an existing class. The old class or the existing class is called the base class, and the new class is called the derived class. So what does the child class inherit from the parent class or from the base class? Well, when an object of the child class is created, the child can inherit all the members declared in the base class. Also, the child class can use all public members in the base class as well. Here's a quick demonstration on how inheritance works. So let's say we have the parent, right? So I have mom as the parent, and mom have her own hair color or her own skin type, her own blood type. So mom is the parent class, and you can inherit stuff from the mom and have your own attributes as a child. I'm going to go over in Visual Studio and give a demonstration how inheritance works. So I created two classes. One class is called parent and the other class is called child. So in the parent class, we have some strings, which are the hair color, the eye color, ethnicity, last name. And in the child class, we have first name, blood type, gender, and skin color. To inherit from another class, you have to use the access specifiers. You have to put the colon and the keyword public. You have public, private, and protected specifiers. You're going to use public, and you want to specify the name of the class that you want to inherit from. In our case, we want to inherit from the parent class. So now that I inherited from the parent class, I have access to these members, right? So if I go down into main function and I created an object, so I'm going to say child, and child is the name of my class. I'm going to call this object firstborn. So now firstborn have access to everything in the child class and everything in the parent class. So let's give firstborn a name. So I'm going to say firstborn dot first name. We're going to give it Johnny. And maybe let's give firstborn a gender as well. So firstborn dot gender is going to be male. Now let's go ahead and write some print statement to print some of the data. So I'm going to say first name, and I'm going to call firstborn dot first name, last name, firstborn dot last name, and let's use gender, and I want firstborn dot gender. If we look at last name was not inside of the child class. Last name is declared inside of the parent class. Because the child have access to the parent class, that means we can use the last name data member. So let's go ahead and build a program and run it. Now, if we look closely, we have first name Johnny, last name Larry, and gender male. Now last name Larry was declared in the parent class. So that's how you use inheritance in C++. Here are some things to consider when you are using inheritance. You cannot inherit the constructor and the destructor from the base class. However, when you create an object of the derived class, the base class constructor will be executed first, followed by the derived class. So the parent constructor will execute first, followed by the child constructor. And when you destroy the object, the child destructor is called first, then the parent destructor is called after. So I'm going to go inside of the parent class, and I'm going to create a constructor. So inside of the parent constructor, I'm going to just do a print statement saying coming from parent class. So I'm going to declare my child constructor, and inside of the constructor I'm going to have a print statement saying coming from the child class. End line. Okay, so I'm going to build and run it, and you see here coming from parent class, coming from child class. So the parent constructor or the base constructor will always call first, followed by the child constructor or the derived constructor. Now for destructors, it is backwards. So if I go into the parent class and I create a destructor to destroy the object, I'm going to put a cout statement here as well, and I'm going to say destroying parent class object. I'm going to put a destructor in the child class as well, and I'm just going to print destroying child class object. So I have the destructor for the parent class and the destructor for the child class. Now what's going to happen, the child class destructor is going to be destroyed first, then it's going to destroy the parent destructor. So let's build and run the program, and you see here destroying child class object and after destroying parent class object. So first, for the constructor, the parent class will go first, then followed by the child class. But when destroying an object, the child class object is going to get destroyed first, followed by the parent class. There are three types of inheritance. So the example that I just showed is called single inheritance. And single inheritance just means when a derived class inherits from one base class. And this type of inheritance is the most common and straightforward type of inheritance. We also have multiple inheritance and multi-level inheritance. Multi-level inheritance is when a derived class, which is the child class in our case, so our child class, inherits from another derived class. And to demonstrate that, let's create another class called grandparent. So I'm going to say class grandma, and now grandma is going to have her own skin tone. And let's say grandma is pale. Let's make the attribute public. So now if I go down to the parent class, the parent can inherit from the grandma. So I can do this public. So public grandma. Now that the parent class inherits from the grandma class, the parent now have access to all of the methods or attributes inside of the grandma class. Now if I come here and I inherit from the parent, because the parent class inherits from grandma as well, I have access as a child to the grandma class. So I can come here and I want to inherit grandma's skin tone. So I go firstborn dot, and if we look here, you can see that we have access to all of the data members inside of the parent class and inside of the grandma class. So I'm going to inherit grandma's skin tone. Now I'm going to go ahead and build and run the program. Now if we look here, we have skin tone pale. If I go back into the grandma class, you can see here skin tone pale. This is called multi-level inheritance. So multi-level inheritance is when a derived class, which is the child class in our case, so our child class, inherits from another derived class. So the parent class now is a derived class because it inherits from the grandma class, which is the base class. Now, multiple inheritance is when a derived class inherits from multiple base class. I'm going to come here to the grandma class and I'm going to change grandma to grandparents for demonstration purposes because I don't want to create another class. The child class was getting access to the grandparent class indirectly from the parent class. I'm going to remove the access from the parent class, and now the child can access the grandparent class directly using multiple inheritance. So for multiple inheritance, you still have to use the public specifier as well, and the other class you want to inherit from. In our case, we want to inherit from the grandparent class. Now, if I come down here, I can still have access to skin tone from the grandparent class because I'm accessing it now directly. So let's go ahead and build and run the solution. We still have access to the skin tone variable that was declared in the grandparent class. So that was an example of multiple inheritance. The last thing that I want to go over in inheritance before I end this video is redefining base class functions. Functions in a derived class can have the same name and parameter list as the function in the base class. However, you have to take note that it's not the same as function overloading. With function overloading, the parameter list must be different. You can create a function in the base class and create that exact same function inside of the child class. Now, when you do that, it's called redefining the function. You have to keep in mind, though, when you create an object of the base class would use its version of the function. If you create an object of the derived class, the derived class will use its version of the function. So you have to keep that in mind. So let's try it quickly. I'm going to go inside of the parent class and I'm going to just create a void function called display. And inside of the display function, I'm just going to print parent display function, and I'm going to copy this function and paste it in the child class. So I'm going to have the same function inside of the child class, but I'm going to change it to child display function. Now, if I go ahead into main, and here I'm going to say firstborn dot display. Because I have the display function in both classes, the display function for the child class will be called because I created an object of the child class. So let's build and run. And here you see child display function. Now that's what you call redefining base class function. Now this is a concept that you have to be very careful what you're doing, because if you create a display function in the parent class and you want to use that display function from the parent class, you will not be able to call that function from the child class. You will have to create an object of the parent class to do that. So that's all for this video. Hope you have learned something. If you do, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video. And I would see you guys in the next video.